Hello, welcome to the Facebook Live. It's us, it's Stuart and David here.
Hi.
Hi, Stuart.
I see you've been into makeup, David.
Oh yes, I put on my best shirt for the occasion.
I used to hate going into makeup. It was one of the things I hated the most. And when I was a director, I hated them even more because they used to keep the actors much longer than they said they would. And you were forever waiting for makeup to finish with somebody.
Oh dear. Yeah. Well, all I've done is I've had a shave. That's all.
Oh,
So,
right, okay.
so I didn't keep you too long, hopefully.
No, not at all. So, have you had a busy day?
Yeah, it's been quite interesting. At church this morning, all the Christmas stuff. Father Christmas was there, of course, you know.
All right.
And
Is church continuing? All kind of worship, is that continuing despite the closed shutdowns?
it is, yeah. Fortunately, we've got a huge auditorium. It seats 1,000 people,
Yeah.
so the seats are spread all over the place.
So
And
theatre's got a great argument to say they should be open then.
yeah. Thing is, it's made safe as possible, and it's streamed as well, so people who are sheltering can stay at home and just watch it at home live.
I'm sure theatres and dart venues would say the same.
Yeah, I know.
And us on cruise ships.
Sorry?
And us on cruise ships as well.
Yeah, that's the big thing. When will the cruise ships start again?
Well, I don't know. Saga put something up today, which I thought was extremely odd. Well, it's good that it's there, but I actually thought there's, you know me, I'm a conspiracy theorist. And if I see something green, I go, why is that green? Why is it there?
Right.
Why didn't you put it up there and why isn't it red? And I always look at things with that kind of eye. And obviously it's the creative side of me, I guess. But this article from Saga, which is kind of excellent, is there to explain the corona vaccine to people and when they might get it and what it does. And it's a nice piece of literature, and possibly, well, I would say it's hard to get it anywhere else without any advertising. So Saga's done a great job. But why is it there? And why is it so detailed? And I can only think that they are eventually, like all of the cruise ships, going to say, if you haven't got a vaccination certificate, you're not getting on board. It's as simple as that. So,
right.
And I think other countries will be saying to each other, if you haven't got a vaccination certificate, you're not traveling. You're not crossing a border. And in fact, Nicola Sturgeon yesterday when she said no one's crossing the border into Scotland, she doesn't want the virus going there. And before people shout human rights, it's the human rights of all of the others not to be infected. So I think it works both ways. But yeah, I thought the Saga thing was almost a sort of a preemptive piece to the fact that vaccines will be necessary. I could be wrong. I might be looking far too much into it. But if anybody wants to see it, it's actually on the Saga website. And I think Steve and Michael, who manage our Saga websites for us, the two ships, they put it up. They're excellent. They get all that kind of stuff first. So they've got it up and loads of other information.
Great. It's great to see people joining us this evening. By the way, if you have got any questions for Stuart or myself, especially for Stuart, he's the one to ask all the questions too. But if you do, pop them in the comments, and we can pick them up here and even display them on the screen for the world to see. So please feel free to ask anything or to make any comments if you like, and we'll pop them up here.
My dream was to have a screen with like they have on all the TV shows at the moment, with like sort of 90 or 100 people all with their pictures up, so we could see each other and then like just put your hand up to speak. But we haven't, got that technology yet. It may exist, probably does exist, but we don't have it here. If this works well, we will try and venture forward with this. So yeah, throw up your questions, and we will mention, unless you ask us not to, your name and what the question is. So it should all come up. So please fire away. Those of you who've only just joined us, I was saying that Saga have just put up a big article on their page about the COVID vaccine, how it works, who's going to get it first. And I was suggesting to David there was probably something a bit more behind it, like this is how it happens. And then eventually, in weeks to come, we'll see you're not getting on the ship without a vaccine certificate. So if you are going for a vaccine, make sure you've got an inoculation book with you and you get it stamped. I think that's going to be really important. And people may forget about it in these early stages and go, oh, I now need to get it stamped. And you know what GPs are like? It's going to be really hard to go backwards and retro get stamps. So take your book with you.
Yeah. So on the subject of COVID, where were you? I believe you were on a cruise ship at the time, Stuart.
Yeah.
Oh, we do have a comment from Jennifer. You need to do a Zoom meeting for photos. Yeah, that's a good way around to do it.
Yeah.
We could have a Zoom meeting and have everyone on it. So perhaps that's the one for next time.
That'll be next. Jennifer, sorry, but that's not today. Yeah, I was actually talking of COVID. It's quite sad actually, because there was going to be a surprise guest today. One of the entertainers who works on all of the ships was going to join us, and he's gone down with COVID. And I have to say, he's not very well at all. I spoke to him about 2 or 3 hours ago. He's finding it hard to breathe, and he's obviously isolated. I interrupted him talking to his wife on FaceTime, and she's actually downstairs in the house and he's upstairs in an isolated room, and he could go into hospital if he chooses, but he's trying to stay out. And funny enough, my brother and his wife are in the same boat. She's upstairs isolated because she's got COVID, and he's downstairs. So yeah, it seems to be spreading pretty quick, and it's pretty ugly. So yes, it will affect cruising, I'm sure. And like you, David, I was on a cruise ship when it first started to hit. I was sitting, the first time I heard about it, I was sitting on the dock in New Orleans, and somebody told me about it. And we got back on the ship and started to sail out to the Caribbean islands. And then we heard, as we docked, a ship had been turned away the day before because it had suspected cases on it. And then it all started to really ram home that cruise ships were a problem to islands because infected people could go on and spread it. So that was back in March. I was on the Aurora. I'm pretty sure it was the Aurora, and it was the South American tour cruise. And I did the section from, I can't remember where I got on, but you know, as an entertainer, I do maybe 7 or 10 days. I got off in Barbados, and the ship came back to England. So I didn't have any problems. We did stop at all the ports, but I believe some ships didn't get in.
Right.
You were the other side of the world, I think, David.
Yeah, we're on this ship, on the Arcadia. It was part of the world cruise, and we got off in Sydney in Australia, and there's all the news about COVID at the time, but when we got there, we flew home just at the right time, the end of February, before it all broke out, because after Australia, the ship didn't see land. No one set foot on land until they arrived back in Southampton.
Yeah.
Big shame. They sailed around Australia, which was very different from the intended itinerary. And then that was it, straight back to Southampton via some ports they were hoping to call at, but never managed to do so.
I think that's going to be the case for the first cruises that go out, if people can venture out on a ship, is that the places they would like to go to are not going to let them in. Certainly in Europe at the moment, the COVID restrictions are tight because they are obviously suffering, the same as we are now in southern England. So you've almost got to enter a tier 4 section of England in order to get on a ship, because I think Southampton is on the edge of that tier 4 southeast barrier.
Right. Well, it's a bit uncertain, isn't it? We've got a question from Irene. Stuart saying about Saga. I read yesterday some of their ships' starting dates, and they have cancelled September 2021 New York, Canada 17 nights. Have you read that?
No, but I'm not surprised actually, because America is quite strict now, and there may be some problems actually enjoying stops in America or going through customs. So they may actually be pulling those because of restrictions of being able to dock in America. One of the things the cruise ship's got to look at is if it can't dock, then you have a ship full of very disgruntled people, whether it's the ship's fault or not. So they will probably look at sort of future planning, and America, which was behind us in this third lift of virus, and we've not really had it yet. So if we think this spike's going to go through Christmas and sort of finish about February, they're going to get later in the year. And it's a bigger country to get vaccinated. I mean, it's probably forward planning on their part. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
Right. Christmas on a cruise ship. Have you done Christmas Day? Ever done Christmas Day?
No.
On a festive cruise?
No. I've done festive cruises, but I haven't done Christmas Day because Jean, who I'm married to, will not spend Christmas away from home and away from family. So I've done right up to Christmas, and I've done Christmas onwards, but I've never done actually Christmas. So no, I haven't done. I've done festive Christmas cruises. I've done. I tell you what I do love is the Baltic cruises where you go around all the Christmas markets just before. That's fascinating, and you get back about the 20th of December. And you got 5 days to get everything ready for Christmas. And that it really is, it kind of does something by condensing the period into 5 days in England. It really actually makes you appreciate it a lot more, because I think with it being sort of now this 8-week, 3-month Christmas run up, it's diluted the season occasion.
Right. Yeah. We've only been on one festive cruise. That was the one that was on Oceania.
Right, okay.
And it started off quite plain, really. We were disappointed. We thought, well, Christmas trees. Yeah. And the cruise went on. They started to decorate the ship and make it look really, really festive.
Just pull that picture back up again, David.
Yeah,
David.
Sure.
This is at first I didn't recognize this ship because I've never been on it, but it is different, isn't it? The layout is slightly different to the most of the P&O ships.
Yes, it was. It was quite different.
Yeah,
some really nice lounges there, and very ornate.
So this lounge is at the back, and it's got stairs going up by the looks of it.
Yes.
Or is
I'm not quite sure. I can't remember where I took this photograph, to be honest.
It doesn't look like the atrium. It looks like a lounge bar, but with steps going up.
Yes.
Whereas on the Arcadia, that's they've got that in the restaurant, haven't they, with the steps going up in the middle? Hey, yes. I can never remember. The ships all merge into one for me.
Right. Yeah, I think that it must be near to the atrium, because I think that was the middle, or was it? I can't remember now. Or it might have been near the dining room. Anyway, doesn't matter. That was one we enjoyed. So sorry, go on.
I was going to say, one of the questions I get asked a lot is if when the ships go back, would I go on the first cruise? Would I worry about it? Would I be prepared to jump on a cruise ship? And I've always said yes, because I think it would be very safe, and it would be pretty daft of any huge organization not to be safe, especially as the press will be watching every single ship for every incident that could happen. So I would be quite happy to get on a ship. I think it would be very different. I think it would be masks and all. But yeah, I'd get on a ship straight away.
Yeah, yeah. We felt so safe on the Arcadia because it's like a bubble.
Yeah.
And the people on the way back to Southampton, they were in the safest place in the world because no one had COVID on the ship.
Yeah.
No one could bring COVID onto the ship because they weren't going to land. And it was the safest place in the world at that point in time. Just had a note from Irene. Yeah, it's in the atrium on Oceana. She's gone now.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I never went on that ship, so it's great to know that.
Yeah, and Margaret says the same. Steps are the atrium steps. Yeah.
Well, it looked interesting. I wish I'd seen it, but unfortunately, I didn't.
And Margaret also says we're on Arcadia's full world cruise. We spent about 32 nights at sea. I would do it again. We've been on a few cruises at Christmas. We spent Christmas Day on Queen Mary 2, QV, Arcadia, and Oceana. We're hoping to be on Aurora for Christmas next year. Great.
Yeah.
That'd be good if you can do Christmas next year on a cruise ship. That'll be good. Back to normal.
Well, my first cruise back as a guest to go and talk about the film industry and my books is in September, and I kind of feel that we might just hit that date. I've not been offered anything before that, and I don't think I really don't think there's going to be much happening. But that's a personal opinion. If it does, I would imagine they'll be ringing people up like myself to say, "Can you do standby?" Because I'm sure artists will not be readily available for one reason or another. A lot of the artists, actually, I mean, you might find this interesting. Obviously, I know a lot of the cabaret acts and still speak to them. And it's now been a year out of work for them, totally a year of them and their life having such a change you can't imagine. And they have had to go out and get normal jobs. All of them have. And they found that they actually like being at home with their wives, partners, and their children. And I know a lot of them are talking about not going back to sea, which will make booking artists quite a tough thing. I touch upon that in my 5th book, the coronavirus one, which is Disastrous Romance. There's lots of things I touch on, which I guess as a normal guest you probably wouldn't get. But the fact that the entertainment manager, as the cruise begins, is having to talk to so many cabaret acts, which she's finding a nightmare, complete nightmare, because normally when I get on the ship, I don't even bother to talk to the entertainment manager. They know I'm there because they've seen I've checked in. They know I know what the theatre does and I can do my show. So they'll probably talk to me the next morning. Most acts, they won't do that. An act who's got a rehearsal will talk to the production manager. But it's only new acts who are very nervous. What do I do? Where do I go? That actually go into that office. So if you imagine a first cruise back after COVID with maybe 6 or 7 new acts, that office will be bombarded with questions, as probably GPs are at the moment, by where's my vaccine?
Yeah. So there's likely to be quite a shortage of cabaret acts when the cruising starts up. So there'll be so if anyone's out there wants to try their hand at it.
If only it were that easy. I think it's strange because there'll be a shortage of cabaret acts, I think, and maybe lecturers. They will also need lots of nurses, more nurses than they've ever carried before. I think they will up their medical staff. So there will be maybe a shortage of nurses who are prepared to go away for that length of time.
Yeah. Got a note here from Irene. Just finished reading on Kindle. Brilliant book. Yeah, I've read it as well. It's an absolutely fantastic book. And what I love about it,
Irene, which one have you read, Irene? Because there's 5 books. If you read the COVID one, it's actually a very different book, and it's actually about a lady who suffers huge mental problems, and this is unfortunate, but she's agoraphobic about having huge depression, and for the first time in her life, when we all get locked down and television starts to talk to us as if we're locked down, she actually feels for the first time in her life that people are talking to her and they understand her problem. So for the first time in her life, she feels like one of the population at large. And when Irene's read the COVID one, well done. So when the restrictions lift and things start to move out, the woman in the book, Victoria, is determined to effectively run away from her medical shelter. And she gets on a cruise ship, which is wonderful for her because it's a fantastic convalescence. But I think the simple way of explaining this is that she's not prepared for that. If you can imagine Big Brother, we're all familiar with Big Brother, and we know that show. It's all about a number of people being thrown into a house, and their living situation changes completely. That all comes from a German experiment, which was about 20 years ago, where they actually got 20 people as prisoners, 20 people as prison wardens, and threw them together and watched how it all changed. That's where Big Brother comes from. So this is a bit like Big Brother. This lady with huge problems, I can't go in what they all are, but it's quite detailed, and the way she unfolds it all is very subtle. But it is like Big Brother for her because she has only, I can't remember how many, but 40 years, only ever seen the inside of a hospital. And she jumps from that to the inside of a cruise ship. Now, you can't think of two things so drastically different. And the way it affects her and what happens is what unfolds with the book. Anyway, enough of the books. I get excited.
It's brilliant reading, though, Stuart. I must say, it is brilliant reading. And I especially like how you've projected onto a cruise ship what it would be like post COVID, or with everyone taking the COVID precautions and everything. So and it's you can imagine it being like that. It's very, very good. Not only the characters, the personalities, but the actual situation. I love it.
It's funny you should say that because the book talks about post COVID. But some of the things that it talks about were actually being discussed to come in anyway before COVID even existed. Let me say the main one's the buffet. The buffet is the biggest problem on a cruise ship. It's the biggest hygiene problem that they are not in control of. In other words, somebody comes in, they pick up the tongs, they serve themselves, maybe with sliced meat, and they lay the tongs down on the rest of the meat after it's touched their hand. And you've no idea where they've been. So you can just imagine with that very simple explanation that the buffet is a problem. And it's a problem because some ships suffer from neurovirus. No, sorry, I said that wrong, incorrectly. Ships do not suffer from neurovirus. Ships do not cause neurovirus. It's caused by people. And I think we all understand that now. People spread viruses. So one of the things they've been talking about, there's two things really. The first was doing away with trays. Trays have already been taken away from certain ships, a lot of ships. That's across different brands. I think the Queen Victoria's lost their trays and a few others. And what they're discovering is, one, people go round the food counters a lot quicker. There's less queuing. There's about the amount of food waste, they say, well, the amount of food waste that goes down is incredible. It actually saves an incredible amount of food waste. And it's obviously cleaner because people aren't filling up their tray. Now, what we say in the book is a serviced buffet will continue. Now, this is my idea. This isn't something that they've. The perspex glass all the way around from top to bottom with the food behind it. And as you go around, there's all of the stuff from the buffet, just the same, but behind it, the attendants, the waiters, or their food attendants, servers, will give you whatever you ask for, which happens at the meat counter. You know, when they slice the meat, they actually give it to you. You don't sort of maul it yourself. So I think that they will give you whatever you ask for, and they will pass your plate to the next server. You won't see servers doing this and walking around each other. I think they will literally pass it on to the next one, and you ask the next person what you want. They will suggest. If you can't think of what you want, they'll suggest again. It will move a lot quicker. But I think all those days of you grabbing food, touching tongs, breathing on food, they were on the out anyway, and I'll be surprised, very surprised, if that comes back.
Right. That's quite interesting. It'll make it a lot more hygienic, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it will.
Yeah. Right. Well, time is 26 minutes past. I know you're thinking about half an hour, but I've got a question here that you posed on the Facebook page, and I'm sure people are absolutely wondering what the answer is. Who on earth is Doris?
Oh, it feels like I'm doing one of my lectures now. I'll be talking for 45 minutes. Okay. Wow, how do I do this?
I'm going to leave that until next time.
Well, no, let me try and do it quickly. Some of you know I had a very bad accident. It was when I was 60, so that's 6 years ago now. And I was forced to stop working. And do you know what? I was never at home before, and I never realized it. Like the cruise guys, never at home. I was away on films and movies all over the world. And I'm sitting there with my wife for the first time. Now, a lot of people who retire go through that as well, but they see their wives every evening and every morning. I mean, people on cruise ships don't. I didn't. People who did Lord of the Rings were away on a 2.5-year contract in Australia or New Zealand. You don't see your partner apart from on FaceTime. So I'm sitting with Jean, and she's talking about wanting to do something on television, which she can't get the chance to do because you'd have to wait for casting. And I said, okay, I'll help you, but I'm only going to help you if I don't want to direct it. I don't want to do anything to it at all. So I actually found a young lad who was the camera assistant on Bulacquo, who wanted the big chance to direct it. Okay, I'm going a bit off the plot now, but I said, I want to do something really off line, off stupid, and I want to make it a character that's weird and strange. So I made a psychopath character called Doris, and her friend was called Wilma. Now, I got the name Wilma from the Flintstones. I got the name Doris because I just thought no one else is called Doris. And they were two names that I thought the Americans and the English would take. So it was like an international cross the waters set of names that would stand out. And these two ladies became the nutcases who did 63 episodes of this particular, what have become known as web series. So when it finished, by this time, I'd gone through some therapy and I was working again. I wasn't working again. I was on the ships talking about my film career. And I started to realize I was stopping at the same ports over and over again. So I said to Jean and my wife, why don't you just talk about the ports, become a presenter, and I will film you. I mean, just got to point a camera like you do, David, when you're there with Christine. You know, you just film Christine. But for me, it was just, did it say that, say that? We literally knocked those films off in a couple of hours, and the name stuck. So Doris came from the original series, and when we transferred it, or it kind of grew, the series became Doris Visits. Jean demands she's not Doris, she's Jean. So Doris really is me, I guess. Well, it could be you, David, if you want, but there isn't actually a Doris. It's a name that came out of therapy, really.
Right. Interesting. Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh,
That's
Oh,
where the books came from too, because when I was in therapy, one of the things they do to try and get you back into your profession, in my case, well, in all of cases, you start talking. You have to write your emotions in the first person as you go through that. It's a bit like AA, but it's for people who are trying to get back after accidents. And that's why the first book, Cruise Ship Heist, is written in the first person, because it was the first thing I'd written was the therapy stuff, and that became the first book. And after that, the books are normal, but the first book's in first person, and that's the reason why.
right. Oh, that made it fascinating for me, because I loved how it was in the first person and in the present tense, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved the way it was written
Hmm.
on Cruise Ship Heist. Yeah, brilliant. And I've read every single one since, and they're all good.
Well, I just wish the movies had come back, because I think we nearly had a TV deal, and we obviously it all fell apart with COVID, and I think it's going to come back totally different. But I think one of them should definitely be a movie, and it's nice hearing people's suggestions of who would play the parts. It's really good.
Right.
I think Hugh Grant now, in his older acting stage, would make a brilliant Kieran Phillips. But hey,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure there's people out there going to disagree.
Yeah. I can imagine that, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
So listen, David, why don't we do this again and try and make it so people can join in a little easier? But listen, spread the word, guys and girls. I'd love to see you on a cruise ship soon, but I do fear it's not going to be for a few months. We're locked down and birthed, as it were.
Yeah. But
David, what do you think? I mean, do you think we're going to get out of this soon? I can't see a February cruise. Can you?
No.
Not now.
No. It's going to be second half of the year, isn't it?
Yeah. We can't preempt the companies, but yeah, it does look that way. Unless the one thing I was thinking of today, because I knew I was coming on here with you, was that if P&O, for example, who have a number of ships, decided they would take out one ship, and they would only take the guests who had and could prove they had a vaccine, then they would be able to fill a ship. But this would be a ship that doesn't stop anywhere. And I'm sure it would still fill, because I would love to get on a ship. But I do think they're actually, that's the only way it would happen at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, we've just turned 6:30. So thank you, everyone that's joined us.
Hey, have a good Christmas, and do watch. I know you probably saw it last year, but do watch My Daughter again in Gavin and Stacey again.
Oh, she on there again this year?
Yeah, they're repeating it. They're repeating
Right.
the Christmas episode where she's Sonia. She comes in at the end and ruins the whole thing for them. She was the most hated person last Christmas. That was brilliant. But she comes in as Sonia at the end, Laura, as you all know, and she's on again. I think it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and it's prime time again.
Yeah. Right. Brilliant. Oh yes, got to watch that. Got to watch that.
Yeah.
We all sat around the television last year watching it.
Fabulous writing by James Corden. I mean, absolutely fabulous writing. So well done.
Yeah. Brilliant. Looking forward to it.
Everybody, have as good a Christmas as you can. Zoom will be crazy that day. Zooming everybody, but have a good Christmas, as good as you can, and stay healthy. And don't worry about it too much, because it will just blow your brains out. Look for the good side of it.
Yeah, good advice. Thanks, Stuart. Yeah, and thanks for all your wisdom and all the answers, and answering that burning question, who is Doris? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Right,
Bye.
see you, everyone.